Hey guys, this is Nacho Cheese, and I'm going to be bringing you a game from Folsom StarCraft 2, Season number 1, Tournament number 2, and these are the finals. Let's take a look at the players in the finals. On the left side, we are going to have nerdnic, who is going to be the Red Terran. He was the champion of Tournament number 1, and if you've seen the games I've cast, he's also the winner of the semifinals match between nerdnic and Jinpo, which of course does bring him to the finals in tournament number 2. His opponent is going to be Selah, the Zerg player. This is his first time in the finals, not making it quite as far in tournament number 1. And his quote, "A win is a win." So apparently Selah not afraid to do some cheesy, fun stuff. Now, as I said, this is the first game. It's going to be a best of 3 between nerdnic and Selah, and the first game is going to be on GSL Crevasse. So let's switch on over to the game, and let's start watching some StarCraft. So, spawning in the bottom right position on Crevasse, it is going to be nerdnic. He is the Red Terran. He is the champion of tournament number 1. He is the winner of the semifinals match, which is, of course, a prerequisite for getting into the finals, which you are watching right now. And at the top left is going to be the Teal Zerg, Selah, the challenger, trying to take nerdnic's throne from him. And this is his first time in the finals, so he also must have won a semifinals match, as that is how tournaments work. Must have done pretty darn well throughout the whole tournament to get this far, and I wonder how he did in tournament number 1. So while these players get their build started, get all sorts of good stuff going, let me talk a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Nacho Cheese. I am an amateur caster, have been doing just a couple games from Folsom StarCraft 2. You can check Folsom StarCraft 2 out at folsomsc2.com. Not a complicated website. If you would like to see all the StarCraft 2 games I have ever cast, you can see them at my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ganon111. You can find many of the games on twitch.tv/Ganon11. And of course, you can find me on Reddit at reddit.com/user/Ganon11. And I don't only cast Folsom StarCraft 2 games. I cast fan games that I find on the subreddit Castit. That would be reddit.com/r/castit. And I also cast when other people contact me via Skype or via IM or Reddit PM or really any of those methods. I am usually likely to cast games. So if you like my style, hit me up. Always want to cast some StarCraft because it's entertaining to do the cast. It's entertaining to watch StarCraft. StarCraft is a great spectator sport. And I think most importantly, casting StarCraft helps me to understand StarCraft better as a player. And I am a StarCraft 2 player, a lowly platinum level Protoss, hitting up the ladder, trying my builds, getting cheesed, all that good stuff. So it looks like nerdnic is going to be going into his factory quite soon, off of 1 gas. I don't expect any sort of Banshee play. In fact, what I suspect after seeing this reactor is the old switcheroo between the barracks and the factory. Going to get some really fast Hellions out there. And as you may know, Hellions are really, really good against drones. They're good against these early Zerglings, which have just picked off nerdnic's scouting SCV. Hellions are just really solid, especially if you throw a tech lab on a factory and research the Infernal Pre-Igniter upgrade, more commonly known as the Blue Flame upgrade. So nerdnic is going to be floating over and getting ready to do the switch. Not sure why he's landing it to the side before switching. And of course, now he's going to lift it right back up and switch over to that reactor. So a little bit of a misstep from our Terran hero, but oh well, oh dear, how will he survive? Nerdnic's going to be throwing down his command center at this sort of half-natural expansion. As you see, there are only 6 mineral patches here, and only 1 Vespene Geyser, as opposed to the 8 mineral patches and 2 Vespene Geysers of a normal base. I guess the only real, full, complete natural would be over here, as it has the full 8 and 2 spread, and another half expansion over here with only 5 mineral patches and 1 geyser. Although this is a rich Vespene Geyser, not sure. Does that? I don't think that appears in normal Blizzard matches, guys. Does this give like 7 gas as well? Regardless, Nerdnic is going to be pushing out with this 3 Marine, 2 Hellion mix that he really seems to favor in a lot of the games that I have cast of Nerdnic. Now, even the act of moving out and clearing out those watchtowers does force your Zerg opponent to get some big defense. And look, 4 spine crawlers were built. There are 2 here. This is a Roachhorn, and then 2 more in the half-natural. And that's a lot of drones. That's, obviously 4 drones that could have been mining and maybe should have been mining that are now permanently spine crawlered in order to have this defense. And Nerdnic doesn't really even have to push into the base and do any damage. That's economic damage, and that will build up over time, as each drone, I believe, can mine 40 minerals in a minute and possibly an equal amount of gas in a minute. So 4 times 40, that's 160 minerals per minute that Selah will not be mining. However, he is going to get his Lings. They do have speed, and they are going to run right up to this base and start doing some damage, taking out just a couple Marines, and now pounding their heads against the supply depot in an effort to come inside. However, I think these Hellions are going to pop in time and be able to clean this up. A bit of a hidden starport up here on the cliff. Not sure why he feels the need to hide that. And the supply depot does go down, and so these speedlings are in here, getting quite a good amount of scouting information. Not going to be able to do too much damage to anything. The Zergling is going to get up here, and does he spot the starport? He does. So any hidden plans that Nerdnic may have had are going to be revealed at this point. Selah does seem to be responding by taking his 3rd base. And I don't think Nerdnic quite yet has the army composition to be able to deny this. Sitting at a rather low amount of Hellions, just 6 Hellions and only 7 Marines. He is going to be pushing up and at least forcing his opponent to make a move here with this 3 Marine, 2 Hellion mix. And Selah will be pushing forward with these Roaches and shutting down every single one of those Marines and forcing the Hellions back. So 3rd, well defended. Some nice creep spread, already going to be connecting this with creep, so any reinforcements will be very, very quick. A couple Mutalisks are out on the field. This could do really well against the very low number of Marines that Nerdnic has, and I don't see an engineering bay for any turrets. There is this armory here, which of course does not allow you to build turrets, but does allow you to upgrade your tech units. And so here goes the Mutalisk Harass doing a little bit of damage, killing 1 SCV, but the other SCV is going to die as soon as it gets out of the geyser, and it does die, of course, but not before delivering its very, very important package. And now Nerdnic is in a bit of trouble. He does have a really, really high Hellion count, although of course he still hasn't researched the Blue Flame upgrade, and there are no Marines in sight anywhere here. He has 4 Marines somewhere out on the field. I have no idea where they are, but here comes the Thor, and that Thor should be quite enough to scare away this number of Mutalisks. However, the damage has been done. As we see, 16 workers killed by Selah, so more than making up for the economic damage he may have suffered at the beginning of the game. And going back in here, and is he going to get 2 more SCV kills? Oh, he does get 2 more SCV kills, and now he's got to get out of here because these Mutalisks are not going to have a great time. 1 more getting taken out, and yet another is going to fall, but this Hero Mutalisk staying behind to get just that 1 more kill. And now finally Nerdnic does have his engineering bay up. He built that up over here, and so he's getting turrets up at his half-natural, This Mutalisk is really taking some risks, going back in here, trying to get just a couple more kills, and he does. Can he get one more? No, I don't think he is. And he gets taken out. But meanwhile, there is a drop at the full natural of Selah. These Marines and Hellion doing a really good job. The medevac is taken out, so these units are going to be stranded here, and if Selah has anything to hit this with, he will be able to defend it. However, lots and lots of drones are being taken out by this drop, and here come the Roaches. Very delayed reaction. Selah must have been concentrating on his Mutalisk harassment, which is never a good idea when you are getting dropped. So let's take a look at the damage. 13 workers killed for nerdnic, 21 killed for Selah. It is a drone and SCV massacre here on Crevasse, and I'm not entirely sure why the SCVs continue to work for the Terran army. I really think they need to form like a union or something and, get some worker benefits. At least get some dental insurance to make up for all of this. So nerdnic is going to be moving his SCVs out, scouting for more expansions, just making sure his opponent is still on 3 bases. That is a very important part of StarCraft, just keeping an eye on your opponent's expansions and managing those expansions, shutting them down when you can, or if you can't shut them down, at least trying to match, if not exceed, their expansion count, as you really don't want to be a 2-base Terran against a 5-base Zerg. That's not a good sign. You want to be a 5-base Terran against a 5-base Zerg. And ideally, you want to be a 5-base Terran against a no-base Zerg. But of course, that is the end of the game, and that's not going to happen until the end. So we continue to see this very mech-centric play from nerdnic. He has favored this in quite a lot of his matches, including the semifinals. If you haven't watched those games, you should go watch them. nerdnic able to win basically not even with a mech army, just with a Thor army. Yo dog, I heard Thors were a good unit, so I made like 10 of them and marched them up into your base. Here comes some more Mutalisk harassment. Unfortunately for Selah, the Thors are in perfect position to deal with this if he tries to harass this natural. And one Mutalisk getting just melted away immediately, and the other two trying to scoot out of there. I think they got the kill against that SCV. They are going to have a much better time harassing this attempted expansion, as they are going to be able to kill that SCV and do a lot of damage to the command center, probably going to force the cancel. Meanwhile, nerdnic is going to be moving forward once again, clearing out the watchtowers, forcing his opponent to make units, although at this point in the game, his opponent should be making lots of units and not so many drones. Let's take a look. Only 43 drones. That's actually very, very surprising. That's an incredibly low number of drones, especially on 3 bases. Well, 2.5 bases. But as we can see, no gas is being mined at this full natural. Gas being mined at the half-nat and the main base. But just with that very low number of drones, Selah does not have the income that he should. He's now supply blocked. He needs to build more overlords, or at least more hatcheries. And I would love more hatcheries, because more hatcheries means more bases. Of course, you can always throw down a macro hatchery up in your main or your natural. But here comes a nice big push. Lots and lots of Hellions, and those are going to be amazing against the Hydralisks that are in here. Not so amazing against the Roaches, but the Thors are going to back up this army, and I think this full natural is going to go down. Lots more drones being annihilated. If we look at the production tab, Selah is not able to produce anything at this moment. Not sure if he's saving larvae or if he's just very, very worried about his expansion. And finally, stuff does appear on the production field. 10 roaches in production and a Nidus worm. Nidus worms, pretty fun. Where is that little baby? Oh, it's popped somewhere. Here it is in the main of nerdnic. This is probably what was taking all his attention. He needs to get some units unloaded here. And here come the roaches and the hydras. Going to do a lot of damage. Even more inside the Nidus worm still, not being unloaded. And nerdnic is forced to pull back his entire army to try and deal with this. Lots of Hellions, but they don't have the blue flame upgrade, so they're not quite as super effective against the hydras as they could be. And Selah choosing not to unload all of his units right here. Instead, he's going to sort of be throwing away this attack. I really think he could have done a lot more. It looks like he had so many more units inside the Nidus network that he really could have done a lot better with. And that rally point is interesting. So any units coming out of this Nidus network are going to be going straight to the full natural of nerdnic. Selah is going to be attempting to re-expand to his full natural. These 3 Mutalisks getting some Thor hammers in the eye. What is it called? Javelin missile launchers. Oh, Thor's hammer is the ground attack. I'm sorry. I apologize. You know, isn't Thor's hammer called Mjolnir or Mjolnir? Something Norse. I don't Norse. One Viking in the middle of the field, and this is going to spot everything that happens to pass through this hexagonally shaped hopscotch arena in the center of the map. No numbers, but actually the numbers are written in Protoss text, which, just like Dark Templar, is cloaked unless you have an observer or a scan over here. So one lonely drone going to be moving through the center of their map and going to this second half-third. I don't even know what to call this, guys. It's a half expo. That's what it is. nerdnic, meanwhile, has recuperated his army. He's mixed in quite a lot of Vikings, and I'm not really sure why he's bothered to do this, as he already had the Thors, which just melt away those Mutalisks. Maybe a bit of an overreaction from nerdnic. Still no Blue Flame upgrade, but here's another... There's a Nidus Worm here at the natural. A lot of roaches being poured out. Much bigger attack than last time. And they are going to shut down this orbital command. Are they going to continue the attack? No, they're going to start loading back up into the Nidus Worm. Unfortunately, all of those roaches were vulnerable to attack. But now there's another Nidus Worm in the main, doing a lot more damage. And all of these roaches are coming out this time. None of this half attack from Selah, and he's doing a great amount of damage, but unfortunately the Thors are just a little too powerful. They only have the 1 armor upgrade, which should match the 1 attack upgrade that Selah has for his roaches, but he is going to get on out of there after having done a nice amount of damage, taking out a factory. Oh no, forcing the liftoff of the factory here, killing the tech lab here so that no more Thors can be produced, only Hellions for now, making all the SCVs long distance mine from the third, the full natural. I like these names, full natural. An Overlord is going to be over here scouting, and the Viking is going to shoo that away. No, get out of here. And another Nidus Worm going to be placed, but I think nerdnic knows that this is going to be happening. His army is in position. He could be taking this out before it forms. nerdnic, I don't know what you're doing. You need to take this out immediately before any of these units can get through. And he finally does get it just as it's popping out of the ground. That Nidus Worm was saying, "It is a beautiful day to be a Nidus Worm. The sun is shining and there's a Thor's hammer in my chest." I'm getting completely shut down. So Selah, not able to have the amount of damage he wants to do with his Nidus play. He still has so many roaches and hydras left alive, but everything is getting shut down. nerdnic is tightening up his own base with more and more turrets, covering the sides so that no overlords can get in and give him any spotting information. And once again, nerdnic is going to be trying to push out. Now, every time he's done this, Selah has abused the mobility of the Zerg forces with the Nidus Worm. But this time, I think nerdnic's base is on lockdown, so he should be able to move out with relative ease. Lots and lots of Thors. Let's take a look. There are 11 Thors out on the field, 10 Vikings, and just a smidge of Hellions, just 6 Hellions. Still no Blue Flame upgrade, but they do have 2 armor, which means they're going to last quite a bit longer against these forces. And now Selah is going to be going for a bit of a flanking maneuver. Looks like he's going to be sacrificing his full natural, which only has 4 drones and a queen on it. And instead, he's going to be making a counterattack against the base of nerdnic. And we'll have to see how nerdnic responds. Is he going to pull his forces back as he starts to see all of these forces hit his natural? No, he's going to go into the base race, taking down overlords, forcing these drones to become spine crawlers, although of course there are barely any resources remaining. And Selah going to be getting a Nidus Worm out here on the field. I think he's going to try and pull back and defend, but of course the Nidus network is completely gone, so the Nidus Worm can't go anywhere. And nerdnic has floated his orbital command. That's the most frustrating thing to happen when you're a Protoss or a Zerg player and you're in a base race and you don't have any air units, is your opponent just floats his stuff and floats away. You don't have any Mutalisks. Although, of course, Selah does have these Mutalisks. I don't think they're going to be able to kill this orbital command in nearly the amount of time that nerdnic's massive Thor army is going to be able to just melt away all of the buildings here. Moving up to the half-natural of Selah, and I don't think these spine crawlers are really going to do anything. I think there are a smattering of SCVs in this army to repair the Thors, and it's a full-on base race, guys. Selah, unfortunately, not having all of his units attacking at the same time, that's going to cost him precious moments. This orbital command did lift off and float over here, but these Mutalisks are ready. And either Selah was completely forgetful and just left them there, or he planned for this contingency and left those Mutalisks there just in case this happened. So I'm going to go with that and say that Selah is a brilliant tactician and didn't make a mistake. Unfortunately, he's pulling these Mutalisks back. Not sure why he's doing that. Drones now being the heroes, taking out some missile turrets. Zerglings taking out the starport. And now it's just a couple buildings left. A command center over here. A refinery over here, an orbital command over here, and that's all that's left for Nerdnic, the tournament winner from Tournament 1. Unfortunately, it's looking the same for Selah. He's got his Roach Warren and his Hydra Den and just a couple hatcheries. Now, he is getting this hatchery over here at the bottom left main base, but I don't think his army is going to be big enough to take out the army of Nerdnic, and Nerdnic's going to be throwing down his own command center at the full natural of Selah, and he's going to be keeping his army there, which means Nerdnic is going to be forced to engage that at some point. 5 Mutalisks now running around the map, just checking and making sure that there are no bases around. A Viking is going to be patrolling, and that's going to get taken out by the Hydralisks here, but it is going to get the spot on this base. And here comes the army. Here comes the big engagement. Who am I? Can I condemn this man to slavery? Pretend I do not see his agony. Alright, sorry guys. That reminded me of an absolutely amazing musical, Les Miserables. And this has absolutely nothing to do with StarCraft, but you should just check it out. But here is the engagement. A couple of Banshees mixed in here. When did those show up? Vikings getting landed to help do the damage to the ground army. And unfortunately for Nerdnic, everything except these Thors are melting away. Fortunately for Nerdnic, Thors are pretty darn good. And they will clean up the rest of this army. A couple of his Vikings left over. And as we can see from the food, no, it's not exactly the kind of endgame scenario you see in normal games. 69 food to 23 food, but that is the big advantage for Nerdnic. And there's the GG from Selah, GG from Nerdnic, and that was a really good game. Once again, Nerdnic just loving the Thors. If there was any unit that was more friendly to just being massed up and A-moved into an opponent's army than the Void Ray, that would be the Thor. And that's not to say anything against the micro of Nerdnic or against his skill. Just Thors, man. Thors are crazy. What can you do? So, this has been an excellent game. As I mentioned before, this is game number 1. Let's take a look at the results of that game. As we can see, Nerdnic, of course, was our winner, having a much higher APM than his Zerg opponent. What's interesting, Zerg players usually require a much higher APM than their peers in equal leagues to succeed. But unfortunately for Selah, didn't breach 100. Of course, probably breached 100 at a couple points during the match, but his average was lower than 100. And unfortunately, as well, his average unspent resources were much higher, which means his macro must have been slipping that game, and that you cannot afford to do. So, this has been an excellent Game 1. Once again, my name is Nacho Cheese. I'm going to be casting Game 2 from this final series in Folsom StarCraft 2, Season number 1, Tournament number 2, and that's going to be in just a few moments. Or if you're watching this on Twitch TV or on YouTube, you can, of course, just click on that link and have a great time. So, this is Nacho Cheese. I will see you for the next game.